12 ones. Whoa, 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 whoa. I'm Rod Duff, your host.
And I'm producer Barbie.
And together,
we bring you our podcast,
Insights and Straight Talk. And with that, producer Barbie and I are out. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. Welcome very much. Welcome much, and welcome to Insights and Straight Talk. I'm Rod Duff, here with producer Barbie, as always. And before we step into today's conversation, I want to recognize the ecosystem that makes conversations like this possible. The Mangum City Library, thank you for protecting access to knowledge in a world that increasingly fragments attention. Leaf Lab, thank you for building agile education that actually connects skill to reality. The Regeneration School Project and Voices at the Table, thank you guys for proving that leadership doesn't start at 40, it starts at 14. And very soon, if you see by the logo up there, we will introduce to you our newest sponsor, Eyecatcher Gifts. With that, today's conversation sits right at the center of something we've been circling for months. Capacity. We've talked about systems. We've talked about civic participation. We've talked about health as infrastructure. We've talked about the middle class stability. But here's the question that keeps resurfacing. What happens when young men disengage? What happens when workforce participation drops? You know, when college enrollment for men declines, when strength, physical, emotional, economic, quietly erodes, what happens? Is this just a cultural mood right now, you think, or is it structural? Across the education, across hiring, across health metrics, across social development. You know what? The numbers don't lie. Young men are reporting higher levels of isolation, lower levels of workforce engagement, declining academic performance, and confusion about identity and direction. Now, before anyone jumps to politics here, pause. This is not about grievance. It's about responsibility. If the backbone of the middle class is work, and work requires discipline, and discipline requires structure, and structure requires identity, then what happens when identity is unstable? Today's guest made a decision that fascinates me. He walked away from a corporate role at Amazon, not because he couldn't climb the ladder, not because he failed or anything like that, but because he saw something missing. He saw young men falling behind in health, falling behind in career momentum, falling behind in community. And instead of tweeting about it or instead of just complaining about it, you know what? He went home and started building summits, development events, fitness-based discipline, real conversations about responsibility. So today we ask, are young men being under-challenged, over-medicated, misunderstood, systematically sidelined, or quietly neglected? Is there bias in education? Is there bias in hiring? Or are we avoiding difficult conversations about expectations? What role does physical strength play in economic strength? Does lifting weights change how you show up in a job interview? Does nutrition affect confidence? Does discipline in the gym translate to discipline at work? And perhaps most importantly, if young men don't build momentum early, you know what? Who pays for it later? Families, communities, the middle class. This is not about nostalgia. This is not about culture wars. This is not about going backwards. It's about asking whether we are equipping half of the population with clarity, structure, and direction. So buckle up. This is going to be direct. It's going to be thoughtful. This may get a little uncomfortable, but you know what? Discomfort builds strength. Let's welcome. Whoop, I got you on there. Sorry.
Yeah.
Dan, how are you, my friend? Sorry about that. That was going well till I did
Fumbled a little bit. No, that was a great introduction. I mean, I'm the one speaking here today, and I was pulled into everything you were saying. So that was fantastic. And it's an absolute pleasure.
Oh, you know what? Hold on here.
Yeah.
We actually have. Okay, this isn't a good question, but we have somebody diving in here real quick. Is this about? Dude, I just gave you a whole explanation. Dan just told me that. Huh?
I just read the question.
Oh, damn. Oh, thanks a lot, dude. Thanks for hammering me right out of the gate. I guarantee you we'll get better questions and comments than this. I'm going to knock you out of here. Why don't you give us, as we're getting fruits and vegetables thrown at us on stage here right out of the gate, why don't you give us your background, that inflection point that brought you to a point where now that because it is, I'll delete these, but it is a point of fact that there is some real need in this time and in this transition that we're going through for many reasons. But what brought you on this journey?
It's a great question, Rod. And it's interesting because I feel most people look for a purpose in their life. And for me, I went to Catholic grade school, Catholic high school. I joined a Catholic fraternity, not because it was Catholic, but just a fraternity I joined. And because of these things, I always kind of believed in a higher calling. And for me, I didn't really know what that was. So you just go through the motions, go to college, get a job. I worked at Amazon for 4 years, a little over. And during that time in Amazon, I started to notice a few things I felt were just not right, both in how things occurred in the organization, but also just on a broader scale within our country. I mean, regarding the Amazon piece, I saw biases against guys. I saw biases in hiring, in how we marketed, in how we spoke, like leaders spoke. I can get more details later on. But then on the national trend, I started to see empirical evidence, research, literature on how men just weren't doing well. They weren't doing well in education, in workforce participation, in social relationships, their health, and elsewhere. And at some point, I just didn't see anyone really doing something about it. There are a lot of people talking about it, by all means. A lot of people pay lip service to this issue, but not a lot of people were actually doing something about it.
Do you really think a lot of people pay lip service to this issue?
100%.
I'm glad to hear more recently, probably than that. That's the problem in this in societies, maybe in general, is I talk about the pendulum, right? It always, if we're in the 50s, we'd be having the conversation in reverse.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Men and women. It's that pendulum that goes from here all the way over to here, all the way over to here. And everybody, almost everybody, 80-90% of all of us, men, women, races, religions, 90% at least live in the middle, and the voices are all out here, and it really sucks, and it's good. So as you're going, can you kind of roll into a little bit about the philosophy? I know you have a really big event coming up, so we should hit that earlier. By the way, there's 200 people on. So awesome. Stan Ferris, even though you're throwing mud at us, I'm sure there's going to be a few other people that are like, He did jump back on and say, just got here, did hear what was happening. And then he says gas prices are up. So Stan, I think, is going to be a little bit of a comedic in ours. I may delete some of his stuff and I may keep some. This one I'm going to keep. But why don't you go on and let's try and make this you got to help me, please. Take this over and make this a professional show, would you?
Yeah, by all means. I mean, I'll touch on the Young Men's Summit we're doing at St. Joe's University in Philadelphia.
Yes.
Yeah, it's an awesome event coming to St. Joe's University, Philly. It's an event designed to help counter some of these declining outcomes we're seeing among younger guys. It's meant to help guys advance their career, improve their health, and build connections with people and businesses that will push them forward in life. And really, at the end of the day, what we're looking to achieve is to light a fire in every attendee who steps in the building that day, that it is not only important, but necessary that they go out and do something with their life, not just for themselves, but also to better their families, to better their community, and to better their country. For some reason, this is like semi-controversial, this issue, trying to encourage young men. There's a lot of pushback.
Hold on, before we go down that, and definitely, I definitely want to be all over this conversation, but let's keep staying back. Well, I like to call it hovering. The event, 1 day, 3 day.
So great question. So 1 day event, early morning, 9:30 to 2 p.m. And once more, we're connecting younger guys with local Philly leaders. We're offering free professional headshots. Typically, they go for $250. We're doing that for free. It's a catered event, and we're adding in some pretty cool bonuses to all the attendees who attend as well.
And it's speaker events. So in other words, I'm here. I'm at the event. I'm not a young guy, so I can't get in. But
no, you can. No, it's open to all. It's open to all.
Okay. All right. So I'm in Philly. I'm at the event. I'm in one hall, speaker after speaker after speaker through that time frame. Is there job fair? What does it look like when I'm inside? That's all I'm trying to get to. Sorry.
It's a holistic, comprehensive event. So it starts off with breakfast. Every attendee will receive breakfast. Then there'll be some opening remarks from my business partner, Aunt Andrea, who's helping me put on, or pretty much very instrumental in putting on this event. And that goes into opening remarks. Then it will open into this career and community expo where attendees can connect with local businesses, organizations, and people that can set them up in their career. Yeah, tabletop. Like think trade show. Think trade show.
Gotcha. Okay, that's where I thought. Okay.
Yeah, think trade show. And to continue on there real fast, in that little trade show area, we're going to have a professional photographer doing these headshots. So guys can leave, put down their LinkedIn, use it for job applications, whatever they may like. Additionally, too, if a guy comes in and is feeling a bit scruffy that day, we're going to have barbers on site who are offering free shape-ups to every attendee as well. And then during this time, we're going to have workshops throughout the day. And not just workshops like, very pie-in-the-sky topics. We're going to have very practical, skill-based workshops, such as how to buy your first home with little to no cash on hand, how to dress for any occasion, things the attendees, the guys who attend this event can walk away with and be like, wow, I really learned X, Y, and Z today, and that will help me advance my career and improve my health and just have a stronger circle around them moving forward.
Yeah, so there's the whole combination of things. I love the little shake up that you guys are able to do if somebody needs a little change and vibe of whatever they're doing. That's a good idea. But then you said you have the interconnection between local business owners and folks. So you're already Is this your first? Is this a kickoff event? Tell me a little history there. How long have you been away from Amazon? I know I cut you off in the opening.
You're good. I'm glad you did. I'm glad we redirected that.
Now you got this. Now you got this head thinking here. So where are we at? Is this a kickoff? Is this an annual thing? Is this something you want to eventually grow? Because it's needed, man. We haven't even got into it, but I guarantee you, like you said, everybody's already talking about this is needed. I mean, we're in an evolution and young men are needed because no matter what the social events are of the trend of the moment, there's a backbone there. There is that. There's both needed. Go ahead.
100%. So this is it's the inaugural event. It's the first time we're doing something like this, and really spawned out of my experience working at Amazon. I kind of spoke about the biases I observed there, but most of the time it was not that. It was an overall good experience. And what I did during my time at Amazon
Sure.
is I would go to these events, trade shows, and what may have you, and speak to small business owners about how they can leverage e-commerce for their benefit, pretty much kind of demystify the process of e-commerce to these brick and mortar owners. So I got to see hundreds of events during 4 years or so. Therefore, I kind of had a good idea of what makes a good event and what doesn't. So when putting this together, I'm like, okay, what makes a good event? It's actually not staying in the one room. People like to move around. People like to be social. So like we're gonna have workshops. People like to interact. So we're gonna have an expo. People also like to feel related to. So we're not gonna get anyone who's too grand. We're gonna go people who are kind of just maybe just above where they're at or a little bit more so they can relate to the speakers. And that's how we've been approaching this entire event, is through experiences that we've had ourselves.
So some of the people coming, where are they at in, I'm sure you're on this, like this final push, you know how those things
Yeah.
are, you're on this final push, but they're all from they're not all from, but this is based in the Philadelphia area, I assume the downtown area. I've been there a couple of times. I don't know it very well. Love the whole vibe, love the sandwiches, of course, but
Oh yeah, the cheese sticks.
the people, and love the sports energy and all that good stuff. But where what people are coming from, wherever they're coming from, and they're young adults in this age, and are they going there because they're also going to be looking for work? How are you building this out? How have you been building this out? As a work expo, or also we have this work expo, but young men, you're going to learn this, and this, or is it just kind of equally both? Or you know where I'm going with that?
I do. Yeah, no, I can jump in. There's 3 pillars to this event. It's career, it's health, and it's community. These are the 3 things we want to help guys move forward in.
Gotcha. So we're going to have wow, this is awesome, dude. I know you've seen a couple of the shows and all that, but you don't know that much about the show, right? I mean, well,
correct.
You know a little bit about the show, but I'm not pushing you here. I'm letting you off here, because I'm going to take it and say, look, we have this. I'm right in the heat of this. We're doing this arc right now that's on health. And we're finishing it on Friday on micro and urban farming, because of the benefits of all that. This is actually sitting in the middle of it, plus leans in a little bit to mental health, which we do a lot of. But my point being, it is a program that is landing on, and then we're going to be talking all about Mangum 2030, which is a revitalization program and we're doing it here because it's manageable and then it's scalable. So we have 5 pillars, which I won't get into all this, and people on the show know what I'm talking about. I could spend hours on the show, right? Just like you can with yours. Yeah. The only reason I brought all this up, because you said 3 pillars, and 3 of them align with 3 of our 5. So we gotta. I was interested when I told you hey dude, we're right in the middle of this arc. You're fitting perfectly. This is awesome. Remember? But also the longer range thing. I'm really going to be listening to this conversation with a little bit more relevance, and then let's definitely keep in contact, because maybe there's some collaboration between Philadelphia, Manga, different stuff we'll talk about.
I love that.
Go on.
I love that.
Yeah, I think it'd be a lot of fun. Maybe even a little bit of a series kind of thing. Let's at least get one question in here. Jack, great insights. Dan, how can young men start taking small steps today? See, this is the kind of thing, because it's the missions are. By the way, we have over 500 people on right now.
Wow.
Important people, important conversation that people obviously see. So you want to take Jack's comment here because
I
the
would love
questions
to.
are starting to jump in here.
No, I would love to. Thank you for
I
the
think
question,
it's a great
Jack.
question.
I think it's a
it's-
fantastic question. I don't know if I'm going to give the answer that he's looking for because how this issue is typically discussed in our culture is young men in particular, are looked at as a problem that needs to be cured instead of a group that needs to be supported and encouraged. So, how can young guys start taking steps today? I don't believe anyone likes unsolicited advice, but I'll talk directly to you, Jack. I would say the things that make you feel better, that put you in, say, the right direction, that most people have complete agency or a lot of agency over is health. Just exercising. It has been shown to help
Absolutely.
alleviate mild depression. You feel better after. And you know what it really does too? It shows you that effort is valuable. I never really put two and two together until I was kind of in high school. And just for some background, I was a socially awkward kid. I used to have this speech impediment. I would hang out with a group. I always felt at like the bottom of the totem pole.
Hold on.
Yeah, please.
You can't possibly have a speech impediment in the area that you live because the accent
Everyone has
is
a
so
speech impediment.
thick. It's no, well,
No.
that's true. You know what? I should go with that one.
Is that
Everyone.
it?
No, but the accent is so
Yeah.
thick. How could you even
It
hear
is.
it?
It is. But
Go ahead.
to quickly close the loop on that, I will simply say that the one thing that I had going for me in high school is I started working out, and it started to show me that you do have
Ah.
agency over what you get out. Like if you put in effort, you can get a better outcome. Not everything. Actually, it's not really about genetics. Most of the time, it's about how you're approaching this, the effort, the mindset you have, and working out and fitness taught me that at a young age. I'm very grateful that I stuck with it for so long.
Two questions. One, you mentioned your partner earlier. That is kind of on-site type stuff at the event coming up. Let's hear about him. What his deal is.
Oh, yeah.
And then two, you mentioned health right now, and one of the things that we're going to be required to accomplish, and when I'm starting to talk to some of these people on the Mangum 2030 regeneration program, but this is based on rural communities, how to not lose people. But same thoughts here. Anyway, do you have any like programs like health incentives or health things that you're putting together, or am I ahead of myself here on this? But are these programs that you're going to be talking about at the thing? I'm really curious about that because it is, to me, I've learned a lot that how much, and not performative muscle, or not cutesy muscle, but muscle and stuff that builds you up, just confidence and health in general. That's what's holding everything together. The muscles.
Well, to your point, this event is kind of hitting on three different pillars, one of those being health. And it's really about, to your point, not just the aesthetics, but also the feeling you have when you fit into, say, a pant size that you weren't able to for years on end. How it feels not to have pain when you bend over, whether you have a family, you can pick up your kids, not pull something. Everyone has different reasons for wanting to get into health and fitness, but what I can almost guarantee everyone is that it will benefit your life, and it should be taken more seriously, and it will change how you show up in rooms 100%.
Yeah, I mean, not only the fact that you're standing, let's just say you're standing upright and your clothes look better on you. Not just that, just it's the inside that comes out at that point. It's literally like I mentioned in the opening monologue. Do you show up differently to interviews when you've been in the gym, right? And it comes out of you. It brings there's a holy cow. There's almost 700 people on. Wow,
Awesome.
we haven't even been going in a half hour. Yeah, that's a
No,
big, yeah, that's big, dude. Say hi to everybody, man. Cool.
I appreciate
I
everyone
love that.
joining. This is great.
All right. So we've got right now it's we've already gone a half an hour, dude. That went by fast. Yeah.
We did.
So we've got about 45 minutes, and so we're fine, but a lot of questioners are coming in. And that one dude, what did he just say now? He just threw something up. Trump. Oh, Jesus. Never mind. It's way down at the bottom. I don't think you can see it
Let's
on the
see.
thing there. I've got a troublemaker in the midst. Here's a young man. I assume it's a man. Stan. He needs a little talking to by you because he's going all wild and crazy on us here. And here's one that ties two things together. We talk a lot about.
Yeah.
Clayton here is asking, are schools really failing boys? And before you answer this, oh wait, no, ignore that for a second. I'll lead up to it in a second. Go back to
Okay.
your partner.
Ant. Yeah.
Yeah. What's
his
his
name's
name?
Ant Andrea. He's also from the Northeast Philly area. He went to a local Catholic high school as well. We became good friends. We knew each other in high school, became good friends later on after college. And he's a great person. Absolutely a fantastic person. He's an endurance runner. He's run 22, 23 ultra marathons. He's ran over 100 miles
Oh,
multiple times. He has his own business. He's a trainer, and he's just someone who like gives back. So that's why, even though I may had like this idea for the event due to my experience at Amazon and all that, it would be impossible without his support here because he is also a community builder and just a great person.
well, you need to have that, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
You had brought him up before, and I didn't want this name lingering out there. Let's
No, I'm
get an
happy you
image of
brought
him
it
early.
back. You brought him back to the forefront because, yeah, he
Yeah.
deserves all the credit in this too.
You bet. So Clayton, back to Clayton here. Are schools really failing? And I want to ask something before this, or is it more about motivation? So we've done a lot. We've done a lot on this part of the subject that we're talking about today,
Sure.
the schooling. We've done a lot about this over time. Done a lot of shows, so we cover a lot of the areas because it's basically everything that concerns or empowers the great middle class, right? So I was talking to this lady, and she's an author and does these different things, but she was talking about kids in elementary school, and specifically about boys in
Yeah.
elementary school, and specifically how the educational system has been just the way it's evolved has been more female designed than male designed. Again, there's no bad or good here, but what they're just now starting to realize is that boys at that age, when they sit around too much, that testosterone stuff starts to build up in them. And so ADHD's been highly overdiagnosed, and it's because of the way the school system is, not because of the way these boys are. What do you start there and then go all the way through? Because it's all over the
100%.
place.
Yeah, I'll start with the evidence. The evidence shows from the University of Brown, a researcher, Owens, out there, looked at elementary schools, specifically 4 and 5-year-olds who have behavioral issues, both boys and girls. And she found in her studies from the University of Brown that boys were more likely for exhibiting similar behavioral issues as girls, more likely to be held back, penalized, and that would result in these compounding effects down the line, which ended up in this huge educational gap, because there's an educational gap in the outcomes. And she linked that educational gap and the outcomes, say graduating from high school, going to college, etc., with how those issues were handled earlier on in life. And it's basically these discretionary compounding decisions. And I'm not going to switch the subject. I'm actually going to time together real fast, because you can look at the criminal justice system. The University of Michigan, the researcher out there, Sandra Starr, did a similar study on how if there's a gender disparity sentencing for federal criminal cases. And she found that there was actually. And it actually compounds over different stages of the process when it comes to the arrest, when it comes to the plea bargaining, when it comes to the fact finding and the interpretation of those facts, all the way up to the judge making that sentence. And these discretionary decisions on how people like treat another person compound, and the result of that is that men were found to receive for a similar crime with similar criminal history, she controlled for all the variables, 63% longer sentences. So this once more kind of creates the
Wow.
issue of like, it's not just to Clayton's point, it's a good question, but it's not just motivation, it's not just always on the individual. There are systematic issues at play here, and I believe everyone has individual agency. But when you do the research and you look at it, you can obviously see that there's systematic factors at play which lead to different outcomes for boys and girls and men and women.
So if you combine these two components, that, in other words, how the legal system looks specifically at men versus similar at women, there's that layer, which is obviously putting up against men. And then there's another layer that within the school system itself, the educational platform layout, I guess educational layout is just biasly, but maybe not even on purpose, but women biasly are designing a system that really is not fulfilling both sexes, both needs equally. It's more just putting a broad brush on something that probably needs a little more fine tuning deeper within it. And then both numbers can improve, right?
100%. And that's the thing too. One of the issues is we're seeing less and less male teachers. And what we are seeing more of are
we never had that many to start. It's not like
we had more in the
all
80s
male
though. I believe we had more
Oh.
in the 80s though. And someone could fact check me and say, hey Dan, you're wrong.
Interesting.
Regardless if there are more or not is irrespective. It's more so that there's not a lot of male teachers, but what we are seeing more of is less fathers in the home. Like 1 in 4 fathers have minimal contact with their children and don't live in the home. And that's so if they're not having a father figure in their house and then they go to school and they don't have a lot of father figures there, then where are they going to get these male role models from? And for boys, this is particularly important. So it just begs a question of what are we going to do about this? And I mean, it's hard to just prescribe a solution, but I would love just to hear more people talking about it.
So I can definitely chime back in because I think this is a great, so for a different goal, but aligned, what you're talking about at this summit, I haven't looked at the individual topics, but what we are just talking about right here about that summit, which is the 28th, correct?
Of March, yeah.
At St. Joe's University. Yeah, of this month.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, where at what university?
St. Joe's University in Philadelphia.
That's a pretty big university, isn't it? I've heard of that.
Yeah, it's one of the bigger ones in Philadelphia.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I thought. Okay. My son was, my youngest was going after baseball, and I visited a lot of colleges. This is a dozen years ago, but half a dozen. But anyway, the needs coming out, the needs that are out here and the potential results coming out of the summit are interesting to me because it applies to on a different scale. I'm thinking about it regionally that can scale and real. And I guess at some point that's kind of what you're in a region, but you're also talking about this is something that needs to be across the nation. This is a systemic fracture within our cultural environment. And, you know, I said earlier that both are needed, men and women. But in the areas of protection, in the more dangerous areas, and I hope this doesn't come across sexist in any stretch of the word, but in the more dangerous areas, traditionally, that's where men stand, protection, you know, and all that. That's why both nurturing and protection are both needed. If you have just only protection, you become a
Mhm.
beast and all sorts of bad things. And if you're just a nurturer, you aren't going to last very long in the world. So you need both, and it seems like the protection side has become toxic. That's the word that has become around.
Yeah. Yeah, I
How do
can't
you
I
feel
mean,
about that?
if we're hitting
How do you
on
feel about it?
toxic we're hitting on toxic masculinity. I don't really believe in that term as a legitimate concept. I think it's largely used as a way to deride any behavior someone doesn't like in a boy or man. And they just use it willy-nilly, and it just associates this negativity with masculinity. And now some people just, when they hear masculinity, they always think of toxic. They don't think of masculinity by itself. They think of toxic masculinity when they hear the word masculinity. So it's I think it's an awful term. I'm not here for it. I really don't enjoy it, and I think a lot of people are coming around to it. The Center of
Mhm.
Male Psychology found that I don't think it was just men. All like 80% of all people believe that term is harmful to the development of boys too. So
Oh,
I think, yeah,
almost
I
a
believe we're getting
no-brainer.
a consensus.
I'm glad those
Yeah,
numbers are high, because that's
me too.
basically a no-brainer. I
Uh-huh.
mean, that term, however it came out, is very new, fairly new, but that term came out for no other reason than, like what you said, but to to put somebody on on the shelf. It's one of those things that, what are you going to say about that? I mean, I am masculine. I have to be. That's
Mhm.
my DNA. That's what God put me on this earth for. Now, the extremes of everything that people can get into discussions about on both sides, I'm tired of all that. It's
Mhm.
back to this, because what's happening and what has been happening is, we're seeing in society, we're seeing in men, we're seeing in males, and we're seeing a change in the culture. And I believe there's a much bigger political issue that all of this
Yeah.
surrounds, and why the attack. Uh, the term toxic masculinity is a bullet, really, is what it's,
Mhm.
ammo.
Yeah.
That's really all it's for. And I mean, we can get into the whole political undercurrents and behind the currents and all sorts of different things that people like to use. The people that would use toxic masculinity would also say, um, oh shoot, what is it when oh man, I went blank. That was going to be a funny point.
Oh,
um
man. You hate to see it.
Anyway, yeah, I hate that. So let's get into Nick here. um
Yeah.
how much does physical fitness impact confidence for young men? And I think it's a big number.
I don't have a number in terms of actual
No,
evidence,
I
like,
don't
"Oh, I
mean a
saw
big
this
number, but
poll,"
it's got
but
to
I
be a
know,
lot of
yeah,
people.
no, it is, because it's more than just fit, it's more than just physical. It's a feeling of capability, like, I can do things, and when you think you can do things, that gives you confidence, that gives you belief in your capabilities to do things, so they kinda play into one another. Like, if you can bench, say, 225, doesn't have to be that, I'm just throwing out an example. If you can bench a lot of weight, "Oh, I can do things, I'm able to do this, and maybe I'm able to nail that job interview. Maybe I'm also able to walk up to that girl and ask her out." They are not a one-to-one comparison by any means, because you could be, real big in the gym and also have terrible social confidence. But in just terms of confidence in yourself and your capabilities, I think it plays a large factor.
Oh, sorry, dude. I was trying to get rid of a couple of that goofball is. He's talking all about the world politics, which is nothing on pattern here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
get on
I think
topic,
it.
dude.
Yeah, I think that it's about the confidence. It's about physiology. It's endorphins.
Mhm.
It's all of the things that come together. Now, we're talking about young men here and beyond, obviously, but my focus in what we've been talking about with men is, and women, is the top down, from us old folks down,
Mhm.
and driving younger, because when you get older, so all the things, the confidence and all that is what builds you growing.
Mhm.
Once you're wanting to continue to grow, and now you're thinking more about maybe uh, uh, quality over quantity. In other
Yeah.
words, I don't want to trip and break my hip now. That's more of an issue.
Yeah.
If I
Yeah.
would have tripped and broke something when I was your age or younger, it would have been like, crap, I got a cast. Oh well.
Mhm.
Now it's a big deal. So now that physical strength, the muscle, the everything else, is not just confidence, but it's also for
It's a great point.
sustainability.
It's a
It's a
great
big
point.
deal.
Yeah, because
Big
weightlifting increases your bone density. Also, grip strength is a huge determining factor in how you like handle a fall and just longevity. Like, there's a correlation, and you can think of that like if you have not the best grip strength and you fall, you're not gonna be able to grab onto anything, and could risk even a worse, more severe injury compared to if you were able to grab onto that sink or whatever may be around you. So yeah, you're right. It's not just the appearance; it's the longevity aspect of things as well.
Yeah, and while that's all going on, if you have a muscle grouping, then if and when that fall did happen, now you've got muscles that are pulling stuff more together, and your skin. I was telling somebody, I was talking to somebody, a lady, but it doesn't matter either way.
Mhm.
But when you're doing that muscle, when you get older, your skin just sits there. And if that muscle starts shrinking, it's like your balloon, right?
Hmm.
The muscle fills out the balloon. Think about it. You actually get better skin. So I'm looking. I'm an old guy.
Yeah, I hear
I
you. I
look
hear
at
you.
other. I look
Very
at.
interesting.
I've
Yeah,
been there, but I'm here,
I
and
hear.
it's amazing that skin all gets better, and it gets tissuey, paperier when you're older, and you get the
Mhm.
tears. And I don't know if you've heard of those, but stuff happens, and working out, it really it eliminates all it. The body is amazing at how healthy it can make itself if
Yeah.
you just let it. If you just let it. So we hit that. I know we're looking at about a half an hour. You good?
Yeah, no, we can keep this going. I'll let you know when we get close. I'll send something or a little chat. But no,
Why
this is
do
great.
why do so many young men feel stuck in today's workforce? Now, you talked a little bit about it. There's some bias, but
Mhm.
is there also just this lack of empathy, or are we just losing it right now?
I don't think it's a lack of empathy. I think it's easy to see something you don't like and assign motives to people. It would be easy for me to
Oh,
look at the gender hiring goal that my organization at Amazon had and go, they did that because they hate men. They probably didn't. No, that's probably not true. They probably did because they
right.
thought they were doing the right thing. Was that the right thing? I don't believe so. I think it's kind of unethical. I think people should be hired on their merit. But the thing though is these things are happening, and it's not just happening to me or what I witnessed. It's when I'm traveling across the country, I'm meeting other guys who left their corporate roles to start business because they said they couldn't ascend anymore because they hit a ceiling and they're only looking for a certain type of person, which wasn't them, i.e. not a white guy basically. And it's stuff that's going on, and it's wrong, and
It
it's
is.
ubiquitous throughout the corporate world because the corporate world, they're big on these appearances, and they're going to try and manufacture outcomes. Like, I'll just give another example real quick. One time we were doing a panel of small business owners, and there were three guys, and we asked the one guy not to go on the panel and have his wife instead because we want a woman. So the wife wasn't really the PR person of the company. So when she went on, she wasn't paying attention. There was a Zoom call the entire time because it wasn't her field and she didn't do it. So that it also doesn't lead to the best outcome either. And you may go, well, what's all wrong with that? Like, we just want to increase gender diversity. What's all wrong with that? Well, the thing is, it's kind of like a one-way show. It's a one-way show because we would have panels with all women when it wasn't like a women's event, and there would be no press about having, oh, we need to add a guy to that panel, for example. Additionally, when I left the org that was in Amazon, it was roughly 75% to 80% women. So there's no like going the other way. It's not about,
In
and I don't think,
Amazon?
yeah, at my organization, like obviously Amazon's a huge company, but in my business unit, and I don't think there should be either. We should stop trying to play with the scale and trying to engineer outcomes. The thing is, if you want to effectuate change, you need to start at the bottom level. That's why I'm also not in favor of like male only scholarships, because you're not addressing the issue. The issue starts when these kids are 4 and 5 that I alluded to earlier. We're not doing anything by offering male only scholarships. I find those once more unethical. But people come up with these solutions that are top down. And I don't think top down solutions are the way to go to better society as a whole. You should start with the bottom. Like what is the crux of the issue? And it's not, and a male only scholarship or a certain gender hiring goal isn't going to address it.
No, they're definitely not. But you asked the question, what does address it? How are we getting there? So it's always been, we talked about the pendulum before.
Yeah.
It's always been that way. So what's it going to take to get this back to where the pendulum should be?
I'll be transparent. There's not an immediate answer that comes to mind because that encompasses so many different things. It encompasses so many different like issues. And now for the lady's question, why do so many young men feel stuck in today's workforce? I don't know if they feel stuck per se. Maybe they might. I can only speak for myself, but I do believe there's this apathy towards it. Like, why bother? Why bother? And I think that also has to come from the affordability crisis with home buyers being able to buy a home. But yeah, I mean, it's like a why bother? Like, why do this if I'm not going to say get treated fairly? Get treated fairly. Why even bother? And when young guys, it's weird too, because I mean, I'm single, go on dates now and again, and just from the guys I speak to who are also single, like it's really confusing messaging. Like, you're supposed to pay, but yet like the lady's totally independent. She could pay if she wanted to. Like, it's all these little things. It's just like, can't we just be like civil? Can we just end the war of the sexes? Like, it's so tiring. No one wins. Everyone ends up miserable. Can't we just come together and address the issues like as normal, rational people and sideline the extremists and just be like, hey, take a seat, shut up?
Yeah, no, we can't. Not now.
No.
But I think we can. We certainly can, obviously. But it's a matter of what's going to happen. Just go ahead and start on the thing, and I'll jump in with you. I'm about half an hour wrapping out. Sorry, had a young man jump in here on me, and we're getting through some things. But yeah, I mean, that's the whole point, isn't it? I mean, that's where it is, and that's where the battle's been for a long time. Yeah. And if the pendulum hadn't gone all the way to the other side, we probably wouldn't be here today. Because, but what we do need is we need to have a lot more conversations like this. People talking about it, because why does it happen? Well, it's very obvious. Well, it's not obvious, but it's very simple. Whether it's easy to fix or not, it is still simple. That like all governments, divide and conquer, right? How do you divide? You divide the men from the women, the races into different boxes, religions, so forth and so on. And then you throw shiny objects out so that those little groups start fighting. And when the women back in the 70s, when that rightly went, hey, there's some correction that needs to be made here. Because let's face it, there was some correction that needed to be made, but that correction ended up doing all of this too. This little correction ended up doing all of this.
I don't know if it's, I don't know. I think there's a lot to the culture too that kind of goes
Meaning?
unnoticed.
What do you mean by that? The culture.
So the culture, it's pretty well talked about. Like, there's a culture influences how policies are made and how people vote. And when you have a culture that popularizes degrading guys, like, that's what you're going to get.
Oh,
That's what
sure.
you're gonna get. Like, yeah, Sabrina. And I'm not one to censor anyone. I'm a huge First Amendment advocate. But when you are kind of championing one thing about, like, say, equality, and then you're going like, oh, like the best way to make a song is to call men stupid all the time. That's a shot at Sabrina Carpenter. It's one of those things where it's like, I don't really believe you, and I don't think that's exactly helpful. And I'll get even more specific and give you a better example than a silly remark, which is Delulu. It's a clothing brand. They create shirts that pretty much celebrated domestic abuse against guys. It was like, when life gives you lemons, beat men.
Whoa.
And there were a lot of other ones. Yeah, I could send you the picture. Maybe we could have it somewhere just for context, and anyone could look it up. But imagine, like, it's not even like that pisses me off, a stupid little t-shirt. It's the fact that if you were to reverse the roles, there would be outrage across the spectrum. People would be going nuts. And I think
Yeah.
it's the hypocrisy and the double standard that does it more for me than actually the act alone.
I think it's worse than that, though, honestly. I mean, this is the word I was thinking of earlier was conspiracy theory-ish.
Mm.
Well, conspiracy theory was the word I was trying to think of to make that funny point that I screwed up. But Dan, I think it goes beyond that, because I talked about divide and conquer, and I think these things that you're talking about now are all very, very, very real, and are all very, very much part of society, and are all very, very much part of the reason that the male species, the male part of the species is in the position that we're in, whether we want to call it stuck or other things. But there is these things going on that need to be addressed, and that's absolute. But I also believe that media has a big influence and has a big role and a bigger reason for doing what's happening, because really, if you knock down the warring species in any animal kingdom, you're going to weaken the species. And so when you create this complexity in our society, it needs to evolve naturally. But what's happening is it's being forced upon through guilt, and that's how it's not real. It's not the right way to go, because it's being forced, not how nature. We're a species, dude.
Yeah, and can I touch on that too real fast?
Sure.
Because
Yeah.
there is this weird collective guilt that goes on
Yeah.
amongst certain
That's what I'm
people,
talking about.
and it's bizarre. It's very anti-Western, it's very anti-Christian, and even if you don't associate yourselves with those things, it's still just it's unethical as well to blame someone because of their heritage, or to associate someone with guilt because of their heritage or whatever, because they belong to a certain group, even though that individual did
There's
nothing
a
wrong.
purpose, though. There's a purpose behind it.
Sure, there's motives. Yeah, there's definitely motives.
You don't have an argument. If you don't have facts, you have this.
Yeah, and that's
the argument. Go ahead.
Well, that's the thing too. Like with younger guys, like I think I saw a post the other day that said, "Oh, young men have problems. Boo hoo! You got 3,000 years to get ahead." What are you talking about? Do you understand that for the most of existence, for all humans, it's been miserable? It's been absolutely miserable. And just in the past 100 years, men in the United States were conscripted, 2-3 times? Forced to fight in a war that they may not have personally been bought into. And talk about my body, my choice. Before a man is eligible for financial aid to go to college, he has to sign his name to a draft, or to a draft. If something happens, you're going to war, buddy. Yeah. So there's these double standards. There's this weird collective guilt that doesn't really hold up against the facts. And it's bizarre. And there's obviously, to your point, there's motives behind it. And I think those motives are more so power grabs. They're power grabs because a lot of people, I don't think all feminists are bad faith actors by any means. There's a lot of good ones and they do great work, whatever. But there's also a certain contingent of them that, are championing.
Did you just say actors?
Actors. Yeah, like a bad faith actor, good faith actor.
Oh, okay.
No, not like the actor in Hollywood. But what I will make with that point real quick is that, if these people actually cared about equality, like why aren't they pouring more into family leave or child care or raising the minimum wage, because these are the things that actually move the needle for the majority of people, not this freaking hiring goal, or not this, oh, you need to have at least one woman on your board to qualify for the S&P 400, if that's the right application of where that happened. But you get the point here, where a lot of people are championing equality, but they don't actually, like, their actions don't really match that line. They don't really bear out to that line.
Yeah, no, 100%, absolutely. And the fact is we argue. That's why I like informational, where you have like what you're doing. What was the name of it again? The summit?
Forging Your Future.
Forging Your Future.
Yeah, Forging
That's
Your
why
Future Women's Summit.
these are things that are so important, because I mean, we're still arguing about the wrong stuff. I mean, we're arguing over each other about politics, not me and you, but in general, we're arguing over about politics and this and that and this and that. And, why are men being treated bad now? Why are women? Well, this is all something we need to stop saying, hey, let's legislate that, and realize that that's where the problem's coming from. All of it is. No matter what it's being that on purpose. So how do we fix this? We need to come together and talk. We need what I like to call watch parties. Excuse me. Started some in California. They're actually kind of going out pretty well. But the whole point of it is, I really want to support projects and journeys like yours, because the great middle class, I like to say it this way: the elites have a lot more access to stuff, and there's nothing wrong with it. That's fine. They have more money, they have more access, they, all that assets, they have everything. So that's great. But what's great is when we get experts with different subjects like yourself, and coming onto this show, we get a lot more information. That people tell me I'm the luckiest person in the world, because 6 days a week, I get somebody coming on and I get to have a conversation about something that's critical, something that's important. And it gives me knowledge, just like it does all of our audience members here, because this is really important. My point being, until we start in mass, and what's our big advantage, the great middle class? It's our girth, right? It's our coming together and having girth. We all know, I told you, right? We're all here in the middle, but we don't talk about all this bullshit that's out here. So we need to talk more, and we do that, and the world changes dramatically, because we need men to be men and women to be women and life to be life.
Yeah, and there's this thing called a principle of charity. When you hear someone speak about an issue or make an argument, you assume that they don't have this malice in their heart, and they are a good faith actor, that they're actually speaking to you because their motives aren't rooted in malice and evil and hate, etc. And that is usually that has not been the case as of late. It's, you hear someone make a point. Someone makes a point, and then you assume their motives. Go, oh, you said that because you hate X. You said that because you hate Y, without even really contending with the argument that they're putting forward.
Yeah, no doubt. And I call it a screaming past each other. That's kind of that's kind of what's happening now. Clive here. By the way, I hope we're still okay. We've got about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We got about 10 more questions. You okay on time, right?
Yeah. Let me
maybe we'll scoot through.
I can adjust something. Let's just keep going.
Okay, cool. So Clive, can mentorship actually reverse these trends? And I believe the answer is yes. That's one of the things. There's a whole thing that needs to be done here. But what do you say about mentorship, which I'm a big I believe it.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm having trouble with some words today, man. Go ahead.
I'm not the best person to ask about mentorship. I've taken the mentors, like some I haven't known personally. You watch their videos, you feel connected. But Mhm.
100%, Clive, no doubt. As far as mentorship, actually reversing trends like these,
Mhm.
yes and no. So, if and jump in with me here, if you would, Don, or Dan, as we go
Yeah.
along here. The when, mentorship is one thing, right? So what you're doing is you've had mentors and I've had mentors and basically what you're doing is you're seeing into the future, right? That's what a
Mm.
mentor does,
That's well
right?
said.
Is they turn on a light because journey in life is not a straight road, right? It's a journey. It's got twists and you this happens and then it sends you this way and it shouldn't be a straight line. But what a mentor does is turns on the light along the path. So if you fall off, you can get back on it. You can find it again, or you just keep going along and you find it. So that's what a mentor does. In essence, there's a lot more to it, but that's a broad brush. Makes sense, right, Dan?
It does. Yeah, I was moving something so we can continue this awesome conversation. But there's nothing that you said I would disagree with or add on to. And I really like the line of how a mentorship shows you into the future because it allows you to avoid
Yeah.
the mistakes that they made and not even just avoid the mistakes, but learn from them and make better decisions for yourself. So I think mentorship is invaluable in a lot of cases.
And that even goes straight to parenting, Clive. If I could just add this onto it, if you don't mind, um, you know, kids learn more from you by watching what you do than what you tell them to do. In other words, show your kids some scars, that you've had these scars that sure something hurt, but hey, dad's still here. He got through it. Those are the kind of things in mentoringship that really people can reverse these trends. However, on the reversing part, we need to all come together and we need to get a handle over our media, over our politics. This is not I'm an independent. I don't care. I don't care about blue or red. But what it is about is the question should always be, is this the best? Is the bill I'm voting on benefiting the great middle class of America? That should be the only defining thing. And people who keep their promises should be revoted back in if you like their promises to begin with. If people don't keep their promises, they should be voted back out according to what they can and can't do. That
Yeah.
should be I always vote split ticket because you know why? Politics is local. So all of that aside, that's not about politics, although it is about, that's what's going to fix this thing with guys and then girls and then back to guys and then back to girls and then trans and then this and then that. It's all these things they throwing shiny rocks. If you take a jar of black ants mixed with red ants and you just leave it in there and the ants are going around the jar, right? They're just living their life. If you just go up there and you shake it a little bit, they start killing each other. That's what the media does to us. And that's why you have to have this summit work. Let's go into some of these. So the part that it maybe doesn't fix the trend, if we don't get over the media and we don't get our politicians back in straight line. Jennifer Carter, are young men losing touch with purpose or just opportunity? That is an awesome question.
That's an awesome
That
question.
is an awesome question.
Mm. Well, this is what I would quickly say on that. There has to be a certain amount of action taken for an opportunity to present itself, and I believe a lot of that action isn't being taken.
Because of apathy, you think, from men, or because they aren't able to take the action, or a combination of things? This is not a simple.
Yeah.
This is not a
No, it's
simple
not.
conversation.
But I mean, we could look at like what's the incentive to do so? Like why? I think there's a lot of, as we said earlier, apathy. Why have a girlfriend if I can just watch porn? Why go out and socialize or work out if I could just play video games? Why get a better job if I can just always rely on my parents? And to be fully transparent, I moved back home. So, I mean, it's not this awful thing. It's more or less your relationship with the thing when, living at home. But there is this loss of like, why bother? Like, why bother? And only the individual can come up with the why bother. They kind of have to explore that for themselves. And providing, I think, unsolicited advice isn't always helpful. Everyone loves to give advice, most people hate to take it. So people need to kind of discover for what themselves and understand like what makes them tick, like who you really are. And I think David Goggins is a guy who's largely misunderstood. People see him running on the street screaming with his shirt off, but you really have to understand where that guy comes from, like such a broken home, and that's to put it lightly, and to understand like racially abused, growing up in schools, 300 pounds, spraying for cockroaches, no life ahead of him.
Dang.
And just one day, it was just like, I don't want this to be my life. This sucks. This really, really sucks. I don't want this to be my life anymore. And oftentimes, pain necessitates change. Like you have to get to a certain point where the pain is too much to bear. And then you're like, I'm going to change. But that's the thing. There's not enough pain that people need to bear right now because it is kind of a society of comfort. Like you can just rely on your parents way too much. You can just watch the porn instead of having the girlfriend. You can just play video games to get stimulation instead of going out and creating an adventure for yourself. So you kind of like, I don't think pain is this great. I'm not gonna like say pain is the best thing in the world, but it forces people to change, and that's what it did for Goggins. Like, and he went on to do great things. And regardless of what you think of him, he's an outlier. But he makes it very clear in how he speaks. He's not a special. He's not special. He's not better than anyone. He's just someone who like, hey, I'm gonna change my life.
You brought up an interesting concept there, which isn't a concept, but I'm just calling it that for now.
Sure.
It reminded me of, and you probably may or may not have heard this kind of wives' tale. I tend to like to listen back to wives' tales a lot because, as it turns out, conspiracy theories and wives' tales end up being pretty accurate over time.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, but this one, it's this story about, and I think this comes from Asia, and it talks about this man that he grew up very, very, very poor in a very bad part of the neighborhood, and so he grew up in that understanding of life, and then as he grew, he never wanted that for his life to be. Ever again. So he worked and he fought and he battled, and at first that first father had to walk to work and walk everywhere he got, but he got to a point where his son now could drive to work. Nothing's fancy, nothing big, but lived that life and continued and struggled on. And then the next son or daughter, had this beautiful house and drove in elegance, maybe even had a butler or a driver. And next thing you know, the next generation comes along and that son has to walk to work. And it's because of that story that you just said. If you're passing that along and you're living in comfort, where does that desire go and where does it come from? And that's when society and specifically if there is anything that a government should jump in on is recognize trends and say, hey, there needs to be a spark here. There needs to be more Dans in the world with these summits that are saying, hey, folks, look you can have opportunity because you lose touch, or you could be missing out on opportunity because you lose touch of what is my purpose? I don't know if you've ever heard the story of centurions. So you know what a centurion is, right?
Yeah.
So there's actually a group here. One of the studies was here close to me in Kansas. But centurions, they did this study. This goes back well before you were born, but like 70s, 80s area, something like that. And they found that there were these pockets so they could study them. So they said, hey, let's do a study. Why are all these 100-year-olds living in this area? And this goes back to your earlier point, long way around to get to it. But here's the thing that's most important, I think, for all of us to understand is when this story found out one thing. It wasn't where they lived. They lived in different parts of the world, different foods, different elevations, different societies and all that. What they found out is that these pockets were actually groups of people that had a mission, like the monks, right? Had a mission. And they found out that was the one thing that similar between all these different groups. So what you said, when you talk about here, losing touch with purpose, that's probably one of the most unhealthy things that you can do. And when you do, you shut down being able to even see opportunity. And that's a really sad state, because that's kind of how we're built, in my
Mhm.
humble opinion of lack of knowledge. I think men are built to be able to accomplish things. You said it earlier, to be able to be there, not only be protection, but to be there for your mate, to be able to
Mhm. Yeah.
provide and do those things, right? I mean, right? That's kind of the whole picture we're missing, isn't it?
For sure. I mean, I don't think there's one sole definition of masculinity, but I believe there's common characteristics in men that people admire, and it's being a provider, it's being a protector, and it's having a purpose.
Okay, so Rochelle's stepping up a little bit here, jumping in and saying, all right, then, how do we balance responsibility, men's
Mhm.
responsibility, versus victimhood in young men? I mean, is there a lot of, I don't know that there's necessarily a lot of victim. I may be wrong, but I haven't heard it. A lot of men saying I'm a victim, but she's asking the question. Is that a fair question?
I think it's a fair question. I think that could get into like the quote incel community. These guys who kind of completely resigned from life. They
What's
are the ones that
incel
play.
mean?
It's basically when you don't
Not good.
have sex and it's not by choice.
Oh,
So,
oh.
yeah, I mean, I don't know, I'm not gonna say a number because I really have no idea, but there are a number, large, significant number of
People
young
that
guys who.
actually do that?
Well, yeah, I mean, this is how they look at it. They kind of look at partially what I touched on earlier, like the game is rigged. Like, hey, I'm not 6 foot. I don't earn six figures. I don't drive a nice car. No woman is ever going to be interested in me. So why even bother?
No,
Why participate in this
that
game if
sucks.
I'm set up to lose? I mean, that's their way of thinking. I don't think it's correct. I mean, I
And it's
have
not even the way of thinking, it's just
yeah,
the way that we're taught is the
uh-huh.
way of thinking. I mean, if you look at social media now, it's even backflipping,
Yeah.
where women are saying, "Oh, unless he makes 100 grand, he's not worthy of me." Well,
Mhm.
now there's a lot of women saying, "I don't give a shit about that," because they're finally starting to understand what is really about a man and a woman, and that's building your life together.
Sure. And there's something to that though. It's less about a number and more about a ability to signal resources. And that's the most kind of evidence-based way to put it. That's what the professor Scott Galloway, who's a
Oh,
researcher
interesting.
and on this, and I appreciate a lot of the work he does. But yeah, the ability to signal resources that you may not be, top dog, but you can provide, you can do XYZ, you are capable, and there's no dollar amount assigned to it, but it is a personality trait along with being kind. That's another one about what makes it like a guy attractive, being kind and then also being intelligent. So those are like three. But I mean, to your point, there is like the people, and there are like I've seen the clips a lot, and they could get you a little frustrated. You see a girl, random on the street saying, "I want X, Y, Z," in a guy, and then it's like, okay, like who cares what this goofball says? Like, there's plenty of goofballs out there. They shouldn't paint your picture of women like that's a crazy takeaway. Same thing when you see a guy do something terrible. A lot of people do this too. Like, oh, a guy does something terrible. It's not all men, but it's always a men. But let's talk about the statistics, because a lot of times it's like 0.01% of like guys that commit like a violent crime. So when you actually dive into the numbers, they don't really substantiate what people's takeaways are. But nonetheless, they come away with these grand takeaways. All women are this, or all guys are this. So it's a terrible way to look at the world, but social media kind of feeds into it.
Well, I think you're, how old are you? How old are you?
27.
27. So, okay.
Yeah.
So, you're on the other side of what I like to call the bridge
Mhm.
generation. My son's generation, right, has
Mhm.
never, is the only the last generation to have seen what I've seen. Right, they
Mm.
saw no internet. Right, they saw phones plugged into the wall. They've
Mhm.
seen, they were the last generation. You've never seen that, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just the way
Mhm.
the world is moving. But what 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 I look forward to is the point in time when the world just kind of backs up and realizes that right now, basically from probably from my son's generation, but from your 20 year, how old? 27, you said?
Yes, sir.
So you're almost 20 years younger than my son, which is awesome, great. But and smart guy growing a business. But the thing is that right now everybody believes the like 1-2% of stuff that you just mentioned that you see on the internet, the video. I wonder, generations before we didn't have it that
Sure.
condensed. So you're dealing with even more young men dealing with even more, young women too, in different things, dealing with even more by extension than ever did before.
Mm-hmm.
Before I go on to Bradley here, I'm glad you did say you extended, right?
Yeah. All good.
Okay. Because we're at that haunting hour. So Bradley Pump, just by coincidence, I told you we started a year and a half ago. But I don't know why, but he just happened to be on my first show. And so I always promise whenever he happened to pop in, he's actually got a couple of comments here. I give him his own personal shout out, but only one per show, Bradley. Bradley, shout out. Thanks for being here. Could community programs help more than schools? And that's what I was asking about before at this summit. These programs, are there designer programs? And here, can community programs help more than schools?
Yeah, I will touch on something that another boys and men's advocate, George Temen, fantastic guy. Everyone should follow him when it comes to boys and men's advocacy. That's data driven. And what he found, he's based out of the UK, that one of the best solutions to reducing violent crime among young men and boys is by having youth clubs, like boxing clubs more specifically. And that gives an outlet for that, say, because aggression isn't bad. That's another thing that has been mischaracterized. Aggression is inherently bad. It's not. It's how it's used, and it's how it, like, the form it takes. So these boxing clubs allow young boys and men, young men, to get in there in a controlled manner, like exhibit that aggression, learn from mentors, learn how to control it. Because that's the one thing I don't do martial arts, but every single person I heard of, Rod, that does martial arts is like the people in there are so key on like this, like you don't bring this, what you're learning here outside of the gym and just start fighting people. Like, like you'll get kicked out. Like you will not be welcome back. So I think that's fantastic to learn and something I would be a huge advocate for to bring to cities. Now, obviously, like the implementation is everything, but just as an idea, as a concept, it seems like a great solution.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's almost like that. What I mentioned in the kindergarten program with that lady, where young boys should be let up and let them go run around, burn it off, and come back instead of sitting in a circle all day long. That doesn't work.
It's torture. I remember it real fast when I was in grade school. I went to Catholic grade school, and I once was, I forget, I was like 8 or 9, but they said we can't run in the schoolyard anymore. That sucked. I still remember that day. I'm like, what? We can't run in the school? What the hell? It was just awful. And it's one of those things where I believe a policy of that sort will disproportionately negatively impact boys. So I think, contrary to what people say, we should let boys be boys. And we should let them run around. We should let them have fun. And, we should encourage fist fights in the schoolyard, but damn, that's going to happen. And it needs to be breaking up. But that doesn't mean like, now boys can't run in the schoolyard. Now they can't play with each other, etc. I think boys need to be able to be boys and not be scolded for that.
I think white suburban women are more like boys than boys used to be.
What do you mean by that?
They're the ones fighting now. They're the ones out there throwing chucks. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, Linsuk, so curious. We're going to circle back a little bit around back to this because we kind of talked about it a little bit earlier on. But so curious, what's the first step for young men right now? And I think a lot of these programs that you're talking about certainly can be part of that.
Yeah, what I will say is come if you're in the greater Philadelphia area, in the northeast part of the United States,
Oh
come to
yeah.
Forging Your Future, Young Men's Summit, helping guys advance their career, improve their health, and build connections with people that are going to help them move them forward in life. And they'll leave with a sense of fire in them to go out and do something, but also some tangible steps that they can take. And also, what I'll add to that is like just a general first step is I'm not a preacher. I'm 27 years old. I moved back home. I am, trying to put a business together. It's not like I bring in a ton of money. I'm not someone to preach at anyone. I'm a peer in this. I'm just trying to do something, and in time, with patience and effort, I look to be in a different position, but I'm not in a place to preach to any young man right now. I'm one of you, and I'm just trying to contend in the same world that you are.
Well, let's keep, I mean, the whole concept is exactly what you're doing, is getting the word out, getting the word around. I mean, you've got over 800 people here still.
Wow.
After almost an hour, this will
crazy.
probably be an hour and a half. Yeah, it is. I think there's a lot more realization in the world than I said a little second ago, or a little bit ago, or a second ago, whatever, that what we think the world is thinking is not, the world isn't on the same algorithm that social media is on, that you're on when you're on social media. So the things that we think the world is thinking is just an extreme of what really the world is thinking. By the way, that's your Instagram, correct?
Yeah, I was actually checking it.
And do you have the summit on talked about on
yes.
your Instagram?
Oh yeah, it's linked. Yeah, I'm so
Please.
happy you brought that up. So yeah, if you want to learn, if you're listening to this and you're like, what really is the summit? Who's going to be there? What can they expect? On my Instagram, which Rod just put in the chat, there is a link right to it.
Oh yeah, sorry, I was going back to right there. That's your Instagram there, and that's where you
and
say
then there's a link right
most
to the
of
summit.
your information flows in and out of there.
Yeah, if anyone wanted to connect after too, that's the best place to do so.
Can't wait to check it out, man. Hey, hook up with me on Instagram too. I'll hook up with you.
Sounds
we
good,
already did Bradley. We already did Bradley, right? Amazing insights. Thanks for sharing. Oh, no. That he had a question up here. I'm back up here. All right, let me get through this. I'm trying not to. Okay, why don't you read what Bradley said there?
Amazing insights. Thanks for sharing live.
Did we say this earlier, right? We said this one earlier, right?
I think we briefly had, and I appreciate that, Clayton. I'm glad that you've enjoyed it.
Read out loud what Clayton said there.
This conversation is exactly what's needed right now.
Yeah, it is. I couldn't agree with you more. Oh wow. I'll read this one. Rochelle. By the way, I love this last name. My favorite writer in the world, Hemingway.
Yeah, that's cool.
Thanks, Rod and Barbie, for bringing experts like Dan on. I think there's a lot of people that really, and then there's some dingbats down here, but we won't get into that. Why don't you read what Jack has to say here?
This conversation is so relevant today. Thank you for sharing. Thank you, Jack, for being here.
Beautiful. And then we have somebody talking about defense bills.
I think that was, well, I think to be fair to that person, that was in reference to when I brought up the draft, to be fair to them.
Oh, okay. Okay. So wait. I totally missed that. Sorry. I was harassing you, Evan. I didn't connect something here. The draft. Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, because I brought up the double standard, my body, my choice, or the hypocrisy, and then how like for a guy to receive financial aid, then he has to sign for the draft. And I think what Evan's pointing to how is, I'm not familiar with the bill, but U.S. defense bills are calling for automatic registration to the draft, so you wouldn't even have to opt in.
That's fair. Well to play out. But did we talk about J.P. Morgan warning oil can hit $120 a barrel?
I think, yeah, I'm not sure in what context that was.
I have no idea. I think somebody's trying to jump on a Trump thing here, probably, my guess.
Maybe.
Let me delete that. And what I want to ask you, please, I'm going to put you back in the green room here in a minute. I'll close this puppy down. Hold on. This is all correct. Correct? That is correct.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah, I always double check how I spell my last name, but yeah, that's correct.
Well, you spelled it, so
no, I know. That's what I'm saying. I always double check how I spell it.
I spell it. Gotcha.
Yeah, I want to make sure.
All right, so we got We got, like I said, we got well over 800 people here.
That's crazy.
Whoa, 4 more people just jumped on while I said that. I don't know why. Maybe they jumped off before or
Mhm.
something. But anyway, what do you want to leave them with? One thing I normally ask in the green room, and you didn't touch those peanuts, right? Those green
No,
peanuts?
no, I
Okay,
did not.
cool. I know Philadelphia's green, so I knew there was some danger here today.
Yeah,
with
some
the,
temptation.
but before you, what do you want to leave everybody with? A final thought before you give a big wave? I'll throw you in the green room. I'll hook back up with you. I'll jump back in after I wrap up. But what do you want to tell everybody?
Broader message, I would say, in regards to just moving the things forward. It doesn't have to be this issue. I can totally understand why. I'm glad a lot of people think this issue of young men contending with current challenges right now is important, and I appreciate you. But if there's an issue that is near and dear to your heart, could be anything, the only way that's going to change is through benevolence, like the act of doing good. And once more, this is a reminder to myself more than anyone else. Oftentimes, empathy is called for. I think empathy is excellent, but benevolence is what moves the needle on a societal scale. So if there is something that means something to you, an issue that means something to you, do something about it. Please get involved in your community. You're more needed than you know.
Couldn't agree with you more, brother, man. I appreciate that. It's been a great show. You got a tons of fans here, dude. I mean, we're headed towards 1,000, although we're gonna wrap it up here now.
Yeah.
But probably want to keep in contact, want to maybe
Would love
build
that.
on this conversation because it's important to the great middle class. Let's give everybody a big wave. Hang out for me.
Yeah.
Listen to the closing monologue, and I'll see you on the other side.
Talk soon.
All right, just hang out there for me, Dan. I'll be there in a second. And you know what a conversation today, man. I mean, yeah, we dipped into a couple things, and here's what I want you to sit with as we close. If young men feel stuck, if they feel directionless, or if work participation declines, if health deteriorates, that's not a men's issue, guys. That's a middle class issue. It's a economic issue. It's a family issue. Yeah, it's a civic capacity issue. Strength matters, not performative strength, like we were talking about, build muscle. Not loud strength, not social media strength, real strength, the kind built through discipline, through mentorship. I'm such a big proponent of that. Through responsibility, through nutrition, through structure, and whether you agree with everything said today or not, the conversation itself is what matters, because ignoring it won't solve it. If you're raising sons, if you're mentoring young employees, if you're a coach, if you're a business owner, if you're a teacher, you're in this conversation. Now, here's what I ask of you, okay? Subscribe to the YouTube channel at Rod Duff 1939. Not just one episode, right? Watch 2 or 3. Understand the ecosystem, and then join our Substack, insightsstraighttalk.substack.com. Engage in the comments. Share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. We built nearly 25,000 strong across our platforms. And we did that in just over a year and a half. 500 episodes plus, 6 days a week. You know why? Because conversations like these aren't being had with nuance anywhere else. And this is exactly why Dan stepped away from the comfort of building something meaningful, stepped away from comfort to build something meaningful. And here, the question is this, though. Where do you step up? If we want a strong middle class, if we want strong families, if we want strong communities, then we must be willing to have strong conversations. We'll see you in the next episode of Insights in Straight Talk. Keep building. And you know what? For now, I'm out.
Before you leave, if you'd like to watch another one of the podcasts, click the first link in the description. We love having you here and we appreciate all your support.
And with that, producer Barbie and I are out.